In high-stakes investigations, the most significant developments are often the ones you cannot see. For the family of Nancy Guthrie, the silence of the last few hours hasn't been a sign of a stalling case, but a signal of an approaching storm. A single question posted online by former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer has sent a shockwave through the true crime community. It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't a leak. It was a clinical observation of a procedural shift that most people missed. The question was simple. Why is the sheriff turning away the world's most elite search teams? The answer reveals a reality that investigators aren't ready to go public with yet, and it suggests that an arrest is no longer a matter of if, but when. Nancy Guthrie disappeared into a void that has, until now, been filled with more questions than evidence. But the mechanics of the investigation changed today. When Jennifer Coffindaffer, a veteran of federal investigative units, analyzed the recent tactical decisions in the search for Nancy, she noticed a pattern. It's a pattern of exclusion. In the early days of a missing person case, the objective is simple: expansion. You want more eyes, more boots, more data. But that is no longer happening here. The investigation has entered a phase of contraction. This transition from a wide net search to a narrow focus identification process suggests that the authorities are no longer looking for a needle in a haystack. They have found the needle. Now they are just waiting for the right moment to pick it up. The catalyst for this shift was a series of rejected offers. The United Cajun Navy, a well-known disaster response group, and Texas EquiSearch, an organization with a legendary track record in finding the lost, both offered their full arsenal to the local authorities. We are talking about thermal drones, K-9 units trained for specific scents, and seasoned search coordinators who specialize in difficult terrain. These are resources most jurisdictions would pray for, yet the sheriff's office declined. The official reason? The search would be handled by professional investigators. To the casual observer, this sounds like typical bureaucratic territorialism, but to an expert like Coffindaffer, it's a strategic signal. When law enforcement begins limiting outside involvement, it often means the search phase is over. They aren't looking for Nancy in the woods anymore. They are protecting a crime scene they've already identified, or they are preventing civilians from stumbling into a sensitive surveillance operation. Why risk a volunteer search party contaminating evidence when you already know exactly where the evidence is? The sheriff's office is maintaining a mask of routine procedure, but the cracks are starting to show. Sheriff Chris Nanos recently made a public statement that, while brief, carried immense weight. He confirmed that investigators are definitely closer to identifying the person responsible. In the language of homicide and abduction cases, closer doesn't mean they found a new lead. It means they are currently watching someone. And that's when the digital net began to close. Because while the public was looking at the woods, investigators were looking at a trail of data that leads back to a very specific purchase. A purchase made at a Walmart. The focal point of the physical evidence is a backpack, specifically an Ozark Trail hiking pack, a brand sold exclusively through Walmart. For the average person, a mass-produced backpack is anonymous. For a detective, it is a digital map. Every one of these bags has a transaction history. Investigators are now likely scrubbing through credit card records, debit transactions, and thousands of hours of store security footage to find the exact moment that bag was bought. If it was a cash purchase, they look for the face on the camera. If it was a card purchase, they have a name. But the backpack isn't the only signature the suspect left behind. Despite the mask, the surveillance imagery has yielded three critical identifiers: visible, distinct eyebrows, a dark mustache visible beneath the mask's edge, a ring worn on the pinky finger. That third detail, the pinky ring, is what investigators call a unique identifier. It's a habit, a piece of personal history. Someone in that suspect's life, a coworker, an ex-partner, a relative, recognizes that ring. Beat. And right now, there is a massive incentive for that person to pick up the phone. The reward for information in the Nancy Guthrie case has reportedly climbed to over $1 million. A $1 million reward doesn't just attract tips, it creates psychological fractures. If the suspect didn't act alone, or if they confided in a single person, that secret is now worth a life-changing fortune. History shows that secrets of this magnitude have a half-life. Eventually, the fear of being caught as an accomplice outweighs the loyalty to the perpetrator. Many analysts are now comparing this atmosphere of silence to the weeks preceding the arrest of Brian Kohberger in the University of Idaho case. For a month, the public believed the police had nothing. In reality, the police had everything. They were simply waiting for the DNA to confirm what they already knew. And right now, the silence in Nancy's case feels exactly the same. The digital evidence is likely the primary driver here. Every mobile phone in the vicinity of Nancy's last known location generated a ping. Investigators use what is known as a geofence warrant to see every device that was active in that area at that time. They look for the outlier, the device that shouldn't have been there, or the device that appeared in the days leading up to the disappearance, suggesting premeditation or casing of the location. Combine that with the Ozark Trail purchase data and the physical identifiers, and the circle becomes incredibly small. The sheriff's decision to limit search groups isn't an admission of failure, it's an act of preservation. If they are preparing to execute a high-risk search warrant or an arrest, they cannot have civilians in the area. They need the perimeter clear. They need the environment controlled. The investigation hasn't slowed down. It has moved indoors. Behind closed doors, analysts are connecting the phone data to the Walmart transaction to the physical description. The legal stakes are at their peak. Any mistake in the collection of this digital evidence could see the entire case dismissed on a technicality. This is why the sheriff is being so cautious with his wording. Closer to identifying is a legally safe phrase. It signals progress without compromising the future prosecution. Every motion filed, every warrant signed, and every piece of evidence processed is being done with the knowledge that $1 million reward is sitting on the table, likely making the suspect increasingly paranoid. Paranoia leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to the break that former investigators like Coffindaffer have seen time and time again. When the visible activity stops, the forensic activity accelerates. The professional investigators the sheriff mentioned aren't just officers on patrol. They are forensic accountants, digital specialists, and surveillance teams who are currently documenting every move the primary person of interest makes. We are now in the quiet phase of the investigation. It is the most dangerous time for a suspect. The shift from the United Cajun Navy's wide-scale search to a focused task force tells us that the location of interest has been narrowed down. The next major update won't be another request for volunteers. It will likely be a formal announcement of a person of interest or the execution of a high-level warrant. The $1 million reward remains active. The Ozark Trail backpack is being traced to its origin, and the man with the pinky ring is likely realizing that in 2026, it is almost impossible to outrun a digital trail. The investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie hasn't gone cold, it has gone silent. And as Jennifer Coffindaffer noted, that silence is the loudest signal of all. We are watching the countdown to an arrest. The only question left is who will claim the reward first. The next hearing and procedural updates are expected within the week. We will see if the sheriff's closeness finally translates into a name.